Coming up in NBN News, the police commissioner fronts the media. Two of her officers charged with assaulting a 92-year-old man. Jobs juggle what the fall in unemployment could mean for next week's interest rates decision. A date set for the sentencing hearing of Hunter bus crash driver Brett Button. The search for two men in Newcastle wanted for questioning over a house fire in Islington back in March. And stuck pup, the little pooch rescued from a very tight squeeze. Those stories and more coming up next. Tonight, a new crisis for the police commissioner with two officers accused of assaulting a 92-year-old.
Unemployment falls, why that might not be good news for mortgage holders.
Wife killer Chris Dawson set to die in jail after losing his appeal against his conviction.
New South Wales nurses ramp up their fight for better pay.
And a world record smashed at the Olympic trials as two Aussie stars produce a race for the ages.
This is NBN News with Gavin and Natasha Beyersdorf.
Good evening. The New South Wales Police Force is again in crisis mode, this time after the alleged actions of two officers.
They're accused of assaulting a 92-year-old man at his Sydney home while responding to reports of a domestic incident, leaving him with a fractured arm. Police Commissioner Karen Webb today forced to front the media.
Gotcha.
Ronald Hodge at home today being cared for by his son. The 92-year-old, the latest face of a police scandal. Hayley Francis, NBN News.
While Australia's resilient jobs market is good news for workers, it could also be a problem for anyone with a mortgage. Surprisingly strong unemployment data today defied the economic gloom, but economists say it may force the Reserve Bank to delay a rate cut.
Times may be tough, but so is filling labour shortages.
When you've got that number of full-time jobs in the Australian economy, there's definitely a positive change being made in people's lives.
Brett Button, the driver at the centre of the deadly Hunter bus crash, will face victims and their families. At a sentence hearing in September, Button pleaded guilty last month to 35 charges, including dangerous driving occasioning death. More serious charges of manslaughter were dropped as part of a plea deal. 35 victim impact statements will be read in court over 3 days before Button learns his fate.
Police are continuing to search for a black Volvo SUV which was involved in a high-speed chase on the Pacific Highway yesterday at around midday and was terminated a short time later due to safety concerns. Anyone with information or dashcam footage is being asked to contact Coffs Harbour Police.
A motorist has escaped serious injury following a multi-vehicle collision on the Pacific Highway just north of Kupanook early this morning. Paramedics arrived on the scene just after 9:30, treating a man for cuts to his head. He was later taken to Manning Base Hospital. This month's project update for the Coffs Harbour bypass has been released with a run of good weather enabling work to forge ahead. The 14-kilometre bypass is still on track to be open to traffic from late 2026.
It's a massive task to build the 410-metre-long Gately's Road tunnel. Alison Paul, NBN News.
Emergency agencies across the Manning will gather in Taree next weekend for the Mid-Coast Council's Emergency Services Expo. The day, an opportunity for responders to educate the public about how they can better prepare in times of crisis.
From beach rescues to fighting fires, they're the local heroes helping us in times of crisis. Sandra Jewell, NBN News.
Trial Bay Marine Rescue has welcomed the newest vessel to its fleet. The 10-metre Naiad is set to improve search and rescue capabilities in the region through new state-of-the-art navigation technology.
Particularly the new suite of electronics that we do have that brings this vessel up to standard to our new fleet.
Volunteers were taken through training in Yamba before the Naiad made the journey to its new home.
Kempsey Shire Council is celebrating a major step forward in improving local infrastructure after converting 56 timber bridges to safer, sturdier concrete ones. The Regional Roads Minister also paying a visit and discussing the potential for other major projects in the area.
Wooden bridges burned during bushfires and floods. But today, Kempsey Shire Council is celebrating a major milestone. Marina Trajkovic, NBN News.
Following extensive community consultation, the Bellingen Shire LGA draft master plans have been released for the towns of Bellingen, Urunga and Dorrigo. Community submissions close on July 11.
Beginning to cool down across the region. Winter well and truly settling in thanks to those southwesterly winds. Cold and windy again tomorrow. We only reach the high teens today.
Next, fire tragedy, dozens killed in Kuwait as flames tear through a building housing foreign workers.
Nurses from across New South Wales rally outside the Health Ministry as part of their pay battle.
And the pre-games showdown that produced 2 world record breakers. New South Wales nurses have ramped up their fight for better pay, rallying outside the building where wage negotiations were taking place. It came as a new report revealed they're not the only ones feeling overworked and underpaid.
A busload of nurses from all corners of the city and the state.
At least 49 people are dead after flames tore through a building housing foreign workers in Kuwait. Many of the victims are believed to be Indian nationals. Kuwaiti officials say building code violations led to the tragedy. Winter has well and truly settled in. 2 classic winter cloud patterns. The first is the northwest cloud band extending from Western Australia to Victoria, which is warm air from the north condensing as it moves south. The second is the speckled cloud over the Tasman, which is cold polar air moving north. Along the coast, the southerly winds will be moderate to strong. The swell will be large. Cloud and showers from the central coast across Newcastle to Port Macquarie will produce some wet weather. Cloud will keep temperatures low across the southern half of the region.
Next, the Police Minister's response to worrying new crime data out of regional New South Wales.
Also ahead, screening for one of our deadliest cancers about to change. The move to impact millions of Australians.
How a love of new clothes has led to a waste crisis and a new tax.
And the delicate operation to save a pup who plunged down a vent. New crime data has revealed car thefts and assaults are on the rise in regional New South Wales. The Police Minister admits the results are sobering, but insists specially trained officers are having an impact.
It's the alarming trend Sophie Wheeler has spent years trying to turn around.
Australians now buy more clothes per person than any other country in the world, and it's leading to hundreds of thousands of tonnes ending up in landfill. The government is looking to solve the growing crisis with a new tax.
At Blocktex, they're turning old clothes into usable materials.
To finance and global stocks have jumped despite a disappointing update from the world's most powerful central bank. Chris Kohler has the details.
Wall Street hit fresh record highs overnight. The main index is now up 14% so far this year. Our index, on the other hand, only up 1.7%. The main reason the US is so strong? Tech companies. Apple shares also hit a record high overnight. It's in the middle of a tussle with Microsoft for the title of the world's biggest listed company. They're both sitting at about $3.3 trillion after big gains this year. As for the ASX, that boost on Wall Street did flow through to us. After 2 negative days on our index, we had a bounce, with banks resuming their rally. The Aussie dollar, meanwhile, was weaker. The stronger than expected unemployment report was the main economic news, but most of the focus was still in America, where the head of the Federal Reserve signalled they'll probably only have 1 interest rate cut this year. Back in March, economists thought it'd be 3. A similar story to the one playing out in Australia.
There's been an intricate rescue operation in Colorado for a 12-week-old puppy that fell down a 3rd-storey air vent at his home. Firefighters used thermal imaging equipment to find where the Pekingese pooch ended up. After 3 hours, little Archie was pulled from the piping uninjured and reunited with his owners. Looks a little stunned, but okay.
Absolutely. Big adventure there as we move to sport now with Jack Howard.
Jack, the spotlight will be on Bradman Best on Sunday.
It will be the centre's sole audition for Origin 2. After the break, Knights players back their teammate to fire for the Blues. While tonight it's all about Nico Hines as the Sharks take on the Dolphins. We'll have the late mail next. And is another world record in the works at the Olympic trials. All eyes will be on the Central Coast's Nicho Hynes at Shark Park tonight as he looks to bounce back from a disappointing State of Origin performance. Danica Mason and Jonathan Thurston have the late mail.
Well, we are kicking off beanies for brain cancer round in the NRL. Jonathan Thurston alongside me. JT looking pretty good in that beanie.
Tyree's Latrell Mitchell is favoured to earn a Blues recall for Origin 2 with Michael Maguire in the market for a centre. The Knights, though, are calling on Madge not to rule out one of their own.
Bradman Best is back, fit, healthy and just in time for an Origin audition.
After the break, Boston just one win away from breaking an NBA drought.
This report brought to you by Harvey Norman. Clearance on now for a limited time only.
They've been the Group 2 front runners all season. Now the Nambucca Roosters face their biggest test yet, playing their third game in 8 days on Sunday. It comes after a strong win over the Comets overnight, who will also back up on Saturday.
The Roosters' roll-on continues with a 44-point win over the Comets in their Round 7 catch-up last night.
The Manning River Rats are gearing up for a fierce clash in Taree this weekend, taking on the Warhope Thunder in the Lower Mid-North Coast Rugby's annual Indigenous round.
Hitting their stride in the Lower Mid-North Coast competition.
Team, that's our look at sport.
Thank you, Jack.
All right, thank you so much, Jack. Well, winter well and truly settling in now right across the region. Strong winds and that new swell has arrived as well. All of your local details straight after the break. A huge swell has surged up the coast along with some pretty cold conditions, and we've got more on the way. The coldest week of the year is unfolding across much of southeastern Australia, including us. Let's take a look at this evening's weather photo. Let's go to Burleigh, twilight hour, just before the sun cracks over the horizon, looking down towards the Gold Coast. Thank you, Rachel, for that. Past 24 hours, wet in the west and the southeast. Central northern Australia, dry. Two active weather systems here. You've got that big cloud band that is from warm, moisture-laden air from the north, diving south and condensing, creating that big belt. And this is cold air from the south making its way north. And that is affecting us, both systems, the cold air, and we've got more high-level cloud. And that is going to slow down the heating process. We've got some very cold conditions on the way as the southerlies continue. Little trough line. So now we're going to see some showers skim in along the coast. So that'll be moving in over Foster, up to Crowdy, Laurelton, further north, reaching southwest rocks, potentially that far north. And then that band is going to dip out offshore, but it is going to be a cold one with that southerly influence continuing. So cold right throughout the entire southeast tomorrow. Quite warm for the Alice, 28. Lovely conditions throughout northern Australia and consistent in the west for Perth. Locally today, 18 degrees around Taree to Port Macquarie, 19s from Kempsey to Coffs. There's the showers offshore today, but likely to see these start to skim in. So you can see just clipping around Seal Rocks there, and we're going to see more of that push in over Wallace Lake and towards Foster, skimming the coastal areas as we progress through the day. So we'll have a little bit there affect parts of the mid-north coast to the south, really south of the Hastings down towards the Manning throughout tomorrow. But the cloud there is going to help make for a cold day, combined with those very chilly southwesterly winds tomorrow. So they're still going to be quite moderate as we check in with temperatures, 17s, 18s to the south, maybe 19s again to the north at best, with the likelihood of seeing some drizzle and some showers move through and some cloud. So lucky to reach the high teens. Coffs likely to be topping out about 19, 20 momentarily. Swell at about 3 metres, beginning to back off throughout tomorrow. Sunrise 6:41, down at 5 to 5. So tomorrow morning we'll be hitting the low just after 8 a.m, then back to the high at 2:30. Swell over 2 metres out of the south, of course, so settling a little. The cold going nowhere. Cold start, single digits, trying to climb into the high teens. At least we've got the sunshine with us, though. That will be returning full force next week. Up until the weekend, though, or up until then, up until Sunday, you've got the cloud and the showers, and that's that's going to make for some very cold days. Lucky to reach these forecast maxima. You can see only 16 for Taree there on Saturday. Remaining very, very chilly, but at least plenty of sunshine will be served up next week. But quite cloudy along the coast, less cloud for Grafton. As we take a look now at a little bit of a time lapse around Ballina. Big blue skies to the north, still waiting for the swell, or the shot before the swell, started to come up throughout the afternoon, and there's more of it on its way. So there should be some nice size waves in the north, but the southern parts of the coast certainly picking up some solid swell. The whale migration season is in full swing now as well. Oh, it's that time of year to stoke the fire.
Sure is. Got my Uggies on. Thank you, Gav. That's NBN News for this evening. A current affair is up next, followed by Thursday night footy.
So, thanks for your company from all of the NBN team.
Good night.
Good night.